We now turn our attention to, as we've been discussing all evening so far, the complications here in pulling off a convention with this other news event, this weather event happening that's not in control of the Republican Party or the Romney campaign. And for that, we turn to Sean Spicer. He's the Communications Director of the Republican National Committee. This is your party you're throwing, man. Thank you very much for being here with us. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's Mitt Romney's party, and we're glad to support it.
So, Sean, tell us a little bit. Obviously, you can't control a storm, and you continue to watch it. You made this change today. How much do you lose by canceling a day of the convention? And if we can squeeze 4 days into 3, why don't these things just are normally 3 days to begin with?
Well, you'd like 4. I'd rather have 4 than 3, but you have to do what you have to do. First and foremost, the safety of the people that were traveling here and that are here had to be paramount. And that, what people sometimes don't understand is sometimes they see a picture of Tampa and they say, hey, it looks great there, but there's a lot of roads and bridges that help get some of the delegates from the St. Pete and the Clearwater area over to here. And we have to be concerned with their safety. Second, there's tents and other things that maybe will pick up in a windstorm. And again, we don't want people out where they're going to potentially be hurt. And it's not just the delegates, it's the residents, the volunteers, the law enforcement who have all made this such a great event. So you have to do what you have to do to make sure that that the safety of the people around here are taken care of first.
So can we talk about tomorrow?
Yeah.
We know right now, at least the storm track looks right now like it may hit shore somewhere around New Orleans, maybe Mississippi, Tuesday night. Mm-hmm. Do you reassess Wednesday morning about what a Wednesday program looks like?
Well, we're constantly reassessing. I mean, as you've noticed, as David just pointed out, we have sat down, we've kept a close watch on the storm and stayed in contact with local, state, and federal officials about what's going on. Constant contact with the National Weather Service, Governor Scott's office as well. And so we are constantly reassessing and looking at the situation.
And reassessing to a point where you could say, we're calling off Wednesday.
Well, as we did with this, if there is there is the flexibility in a schedule to do what we have to do. Our focus is to go forward tomorrow. We've got a great lineup, Governor Christie, Mrs. Romney, and so we look forward to really kicking off tomorrow with both the proceedings, the roll call, some of the business that has to get done, and some of the great speakers that we have lined up. And we're going to, just continue to go forward as we have, now.
Well, you came in and Diane Sawyer was here chatting. I don't know if you caught what she was saying, but one of the things she talked to Speaker Boehner about was never mind the possibility of, as Amy was suggesting, maybe you have to actually alter the schedule, but just the optics of sort of a balloon drop and a big party if on the other side of the television screen is a storm damage in the Gulf Coast and this resonance of other storms we've seen there. Not that anyone is predicting this to be as bad as Katrina, but just that whole notion of an event overtaking the events in this hall over in New Orleans that has that kind of resonance while a party's going on here. How do you balance that? How do you figure that out?
Right. Well, in the same way that we looked at the situation and said, okay, what do we have to do to take into consideration the safety of those in this area?
Right.
Now the question, as you pointed out, becomes the safety and well-being of those folks in either Mississippi or Louisiana as this storm hits landfall. We've got a lot of really smart people that are helping to put this together. You saw that we were able to pivot and be flexible when the weather warranted a concern here. We'll do the same going forward. And you can only, it's the same thing with programming. I mean, you guys have sent all crews down here, and now you're saying, okay, if there's landfall, do we send a news crew somewhere? We're being as flexible to some degree as the news organizations that are covering us, saying, okay, what do we have to do should something occur?
Are you guys in close contact with the Bobby Jindals and Phil Bryants of the world? Are you guys talking with the governor's offices of these
There are people
states?
there are folks in the campaign talking to them from a safety and security standpoint. What we don't want to do, those governors, Governor Jindal, Governor Bryant, and others, the governors of the Gulf states, they have made a very important call and said, hey, our #1 priority is
Right.
the safety of our states.
Right.
We're not going to get in the way of that and say, hey, here's what time the show goes on. I mean, they are doing the right thing. They're leading. And so we do monitor this. We can monitor most of it from the National Weather Service in terms of the folks that we have been getting updates for. When's where's the storm tracking? When's the landfall going to occur? So we have appropriate folks to talk to weather-wise to not get in their way, to make the proper arrangements in Louisiana and Alabama, Mississippi, etc. And we're going to continue to monitor that and go forward. But I think we've got a great message to tell. We've got great speakers, and our hope is that just as it passed Tampa, you know, Isaac stays out at sea and dies, and we didn't invite him here, and I don't think Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana want him there. So hopefully in the same way that we pushed him away, they can do the same.
Sean, you had mentioned that you have to do a little bit of business tomorrow when you gavel in at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You've got to not only have the roll call and the nomination process take place, but you also have to pass rules.
Right.
And there was a little hubbub today about the Rules Committee, and I don't want to get too deep in the weeds here, but the notion that the Romney forces were coming in here to say, you know, in the future, we want to change the rules so that if you win a caucus state or a primary state, if you win that outright, you're going to win the delegates of those states, or the chunk of the delegates that match the proportion of your vote. And all these subsequent steps that we saw the Ron Paul forces really take advantage of this year in terms of accumulating delegates at state conventions and these subsequent steps, they wanted to sort of get rid of that. The Paul force is pushing back. Where does that stand right now?
Well, I think we're going to move forward with the changes. I mean, one of the things, just to put it in context, every 4 years when we have a convention, we look at those rules and the nominees team, and it's not like their campaign, it's the delegates that they've won sit down and say, okay, these rules need to be adjusted going forward. But second, to the Paul force's question, they are an important piece of our party, and they are a strong voice, and they're active, and we're glad to have their support. And throughout this week, through the platform, etc., we had a really great story to tell as far as everybody coming together in the sense of inclusiveness. The Paul people really came out understanding that we respect them, we wanted them as part of the process. But at the same time, there were pieces of this that we noticed during this process where, you know, in particular, Governor Romney would go in and win a state, and then when they would go elect the delegates that were supposed to support the person that had won it, some of the Paul folks would run to be a Romney delegate. Well, that's not what the intention clearly is. I mean, it's you know,
do you have a sense?
And so
that
sometimes what you happen with the rules is you say, wait a second, that's not the intention. Let's clean it up so it doesn't occur again. But that's by no means that is sort of a technical correction, as you would.
Well, let's talk just big picture wise. Mrs. Romney speaks tomorrow.
Right.
Our poll just came out today, shows a dead heat.
Right.
The governor doing very well on issues of the economy, but on issues he understands me. He's trailing Barack Obama, and there's still a gender gap there. Not as big as we've seen in the past, but still a pretty significant gender gap. What can she do, his wife, to help bridge those gaps?
I think having your spouse get up and talk to you in ways that, you know, none of us want to get up and brag about ourselves. You know, I'm a great father, I'm a really good husband. That's sometimes tough to do. But Mrs. Romney can speak from the heart and talk about what he's like as a father, as a husband, as someone that she's seen reach out to others in their time of need, in a way that sometimes, you know, he can't do because it just comes off, you know, maybe a little odd. When anyone tries to do that themselves. So I think Mrs. Romney and so many of the other speakers who know the governor, both as a, you know, maybe as a business partner, as a leader, as someone they worked with in government or at the Olympics. We've got a lot of great Olympians speaking who have dealt with him, can add that sense of flavor and understanding and deepness to who he is and why he wants to do this.
Sean Spicer, Communications Director for the Republican National Committee. Thanks for being here. This is Sean sign-in. It says, Virginia is for Romney. Are you a Virginia resident?
I am.
You're a Virginia resident. So that's the message he put
playing off the Virginia is for lovers. But
yeah, Virginia is for Romney. There you go. Thanks a lot, man.
Thanks,
Appreciate
David.
it. Good luck with the convention.
Pleasure to see you guys here.
Thanks a lot. See you later, Sean.